Alright, welcome to the second video on composition. I already did one, it was about the elements of composition, and today I'm gonna show you how you can combine these elements, how you can use them in your artworks. It will work for painting, it will work for drawing, it will work for photography, anything visual that needs that, nice spice and kick to it in terms of good composition and shit. I'm gonna explain a bit more about the whole concept of composition. I'm gonna be talking about a few of different types of composition and we'll be giving you examples. So I'm gonna be screen recording my iPad for the most of the video because I'm lazy and I just wanna lay in bed, but let's say it's because of your convenience and it will be easier to understand when you will have the visual input and shit. So let's dive right in. And if you think this type of content will be useful for you in the future, you can subscribe and shit.
All right, so let's start with the OG one. This is the one that you only really need, to be honest, because you can apply that to literally anything. And I will show you how to do that. And while showing the other examples, I will also probably point to this one because I said it's the fucking OG one. It kind of looks like this, and you can turn it on in your phone, in your camera, and any device you can take pictures with. I have it on in my phone and in my camera as well. So it looks like this. It's divided by 3 sections. As you can see, that's why the rule of thirds. The vertical one looks the same, and it just has 9 fields, as you can see. What that does is it gives you a lot of help with taking a picture or designing your composition. For example, it's really simple. You just take 1/3 to 2/3, right? So for example, let's take a landscape. How do we know that the landscape is good? We can do a division, 2/3 to 1/3. Or we could also do that the other way around. So for example, if I don't know, you have this beautiful sunset or whatever, then you can do 2/3 to 1/3. And the 1/3 would be your ground. So imagine this don't exist. 2/3 of the sky then to 1/3 of our land. So besides dividing it like that by these lines, you can do that both horizontally and vertically. Of course, you can also do that like this on these lines. So we can create a different type of division. And also if you want to create central composition, let's say place a model here, right, to sit there. So the best solution would be for the model to take up 1/3 of space of this exact bubble. So it's really simple, but besides those lines, we can also do one line. So let's say we have a tiny tree. So instead of putting this tiny little tree in the center, what we can do is to put this tree somewhere here. And even better would be if it would be in 1/3, of course, here. So it sits on this line, but also the ground would go like that. What this gives us, this shows us this cross section, and those are your strong points. So we can place one here, one here, one here, and one here. Of course, that will work for vertical too. So what you can place in these elements. So if you have one singular very important thing that we want to portray, you can just place it directly on the cross section. It will add pizzazz to that specific thing you want to design. So let's do some examples, because why not? So let's invite some ladies over, right? Let's place each of these things here. So you saw the Windows XP wallpaper. So now it's time for you to see how it can be applied to real life paintings and pictures and whatever. So you see that and you're like, where the fuck this frame goes here? Like, she's in like 1/3 of the whole painting, right? So what do we have on the important lines? We have her nose and mouth here. We also have her hand here. Like, so the girl with the pearl, despite having a different shape bit, we also can divide this painting like so, right? More of her silhouette sits on the right side. So she's sitting on this right line here, on the strong point, strong line, but also her eye is on the other point. So here we kind of have like this important triangle if you're just looking at the lines within the rule of thirds type of composition. So in here, this is more of a central composition, but as mentioned, you can use that for anything. So basically, if we would just like divide this by 3, it's not perfect because I'm hand drawing it, as you can fucking tell probably. So what do we have here? She sits on this line. So they just took this and they said to her, sit on that fucking thing. And I mean, they didn't set that probably, because it was framed. She just sat on the floor. But then again, we have her eyes going through another line. And she, especially like here, takes more or less 1/3 of a frame. Look at that. Also, we have a nice triangle. And the triangle is something that you want to have in your composition, especially if you're going for something more complex. Because then triangles will look really, really awesome. And even if you're doing abstract, look at this fucking thing. 1/3 to 2/3. And like really, you can apply that shit to like anything. So let's add another 2 random pictures. So kablam, 1/3. Our silhouette, despite being glitched a little, still sits more strongly on that line. We also have some spray and shit to divide the painting with extra shapes, so it doesn't have to be like perfect and like, you know, mathematical and shit, or it doesn't have to be like hidden. If you want, it can be like kind of in your face, because this line is on the division, so is this line. So we have the face in 1/3 of a painting. Look at this dude here, right? Yeah, this one is like, I think, one of the simplest ones, because he just takes up exactly 1/3 of our composition. And if we then divide composition like that, we will see that the apple, it sits on this fucking line. So again, it's not random. It might look random, but the rule of thirds kind of tingles our brain somehow. So since we started with the rule, let's go with another rule. And this one is called rule of odds. And those are odd numbers, not weird fucking people. So odd numbers, in case you're fucking stupid or something, are the numbers that are not divisible by 2. So all the 3s, 5, 7s, and shit like that. So in here, when do we have our composition? It's better to use odd number of elements in your composition in order to make it more interesting. And I know it might sound odd, but it does work. Okay, so let's say we have a perfume. We do have 2 of these. Kind of looks boring, right? Nothing happens despite it being like yin yang type of shit. Because, you know, we have weight here and we have weight here, so there's a counterweight. The elements might talk to each other, but it's still fucking boring, dude. Like, except the only thing you could fix up with that would be colors, and you could use complementary color to that one. So this might be like blue bottle or whatever. So in that case, that would do the trick. But let's say we have Coca-Cola or whatever brand, that does have the same bottles. Look at this. Doesn't this look better? Like way better. We have 3 of them, but now this creates this tiny triangle. We have space here suddenly. Everything's cooler and shit. And we can even like switch it up, like no problem. Like check this out. I can just copy this fucking thing, right? And then this thing. Boom. Just fucking random shit. Like, and if I try to create just 2 of these somewhere, like even if I will play with the sizes and stuff, like it still won't be that interesting. Because what the fuck is this? You know? Like this is nothing. Here, bam, triangle. Bam, fucking triangles. Illuminati shit. You know? This is the shit that tickles our brain somehow. Like, I don't know why and how, but it does the fucking trick. So if you want to create better, more interesting compositions, then go ahead and just use rule of odds. Trust me, it looks really good. You probably know this painting, right? Of course, we do have a nice triangle here. But also, look at this. How many people are in this painting? We have our screaming person, and here there are 2 people walking. And it's interesting because it does flip the triangle that the bridge creates. That's one of the reasons why this painting might be visually appealing to a lot of people, right? Monet, everyone knows Monet. Look at the tiny boats. How many tiny boats can you spot? 1, 2, 3. Look at that. Another strong element in the painting is the sun. Coincidence? I think not. This is really cool painting. And how many people are on this painting? Let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4. Would you look at that? That's an odd number of people. Interesting. You know what's also interesting? The floor, because the floor takes up 1/3 of the space. So yeah. This is quite interesting for an example, because here you have 3 main silhouettes, let's say, right? Because we have 1, 2, 3. Also quite nice because we have black, white, black. So the colors are also there. But we also have like this reflection of that guy here, which is an extra element, but that gives us 4, right? We do also have, of course, another silhouette that's like kind of like moving. But let's say these are our main 3, right? This would be 4th and this would be 5th. But let's not count this for sake of argument, because this is the same guy, it's just reflected. Then this will gives us 4 silhouettes. So it's not really odd number, but I would still categorize it a bit differently, because this person is moving fast as the train. So here we have these 2 elements talking with each other, and then these elements making the odd number. This one I'm not even gonna bother explaining, because you can see 3 silhouettes. It's divided nicely. Light takes up around 1/3 of the whole frame, so we also have rule of thirds on top of rule of odds. So perfect. I'm pretty sure you know this crazy motherfucker and his paintings. Look at how many clocks there are. And what shape do they give? Fucking triangle. This is a fucking clock as well, but it's being consumed by ants and shit. It's like weird fucking thing. I don't even know if it's a clock, you know? But the melting clocks in the same style, they are interconnected here. Even if you think that like abstract painting and shit like that, it's not thought out, it usually is thought out. So let's do some extra stuff with shapes. So on top of your classical compositions and lines, you can also use shapes. So I'm gonna give you a few examples in photography, how we can use these. So first of all, we can use shapes as a way of like directing the viewer into our main subject. So in this case, it would be this girl here. So yeah, as you can see here, we have like a square here, strong shape, triangles here and there. Like this is a strong triangle as well. So we have lots of shapes, and all of them are pointing at our main subject, which is a good thing. That's how you make the photo interesting. That's how you like point at the subject, because like just the portrait picture of a pretty girl isn't a good picture. Like I hate when people confuse pretty girl with pretty picture. Like I hear people, this is a beautiful picture, and I'm like, no, it's a shitty picture. The girl is beautiful though. Like, you know what I mean? This is an example from like 100 years ago. Guy called Brassai, though I'm probably pronouncing it wrong. He's one of my favorite photographers, and as you can see, we have like S shape here. And S shapes and C shapes are really nice. They will make it quite interesting, and also it can lead the viewer, can make you pick more of an interesting. And this is like more of a C shape I've mentioned, so it's more squished and it has like extra line here. But thanks to how the lines are curvy everywhere, this photo is quite dynamic, and it's not because of the person's running, it's just because of the lines alone. They are just in a dynamic pose. So even if the picture is quite static, like with the girl here, this is a static picture, but the composition here is dynamic because of these like strong lines, contrasts. We have like light and shadow next to each other, and they do also create those like strong cuts from the rest. So we have a similar thing going on here. So it's more dynamic, and it's not necessarily because of the guy running. And here also, you can see how we can use the shapes to guide the viewer. But also, if we do our rule of third thing, you can see we have strong points on these lines here. This guy basically runs through one of the points. So this is quite nice of a composition here. So we have like perfectly 1/3 to 2/3 and shit, but I'm not gonna repeat myself too much. You can just go back. So those shapes don't have to be like precisely square, rectangular, or circle. There's also something known in photography as frame in frame, and it basically is what it says, is literally creating a frame within a frame, right? So I found this little ant here. As you can see, we have this hole here. It's, you can say, some will say it's square, some will say it's more circle-ish, but you get the point. There's a shape here, and we have frame in frame, and our main subject is this little ant. Also, I know I said I'm not gonna repeat myself, but this one is just like perfect 1/3. The ant's there. Its head is like on the cross line on a strong point. So very good example. It doesn't have to be that obvious. It can be more of like open type of frame in frame composition. But here we see like a bunch of foliage around, framing up the lake behind. And if there's like a singular wheat going through your frame with nothing else, this is a mistake. You should not have singular thing like that. You can use it consciously to create certain shapes. So here we have like this chunky rectangular, as you can see here, and also 1/3 of the frame, more or less, this thing takes up. This one is to be honest, a little bit sus to me, but it works though. It has like this really cool moon in there, and also gradient here. This shit is crazy. Like, I love me gradients and shit. Though it's probably like cold as fuck there, so I don't envy the photographer. Though that's the fucking thing in photography. Sometimes you have to just wake up at 4 a.m. and go into some random fucking place to get a really cool frame. Okay, so I hope that helps you out. If you'd like to see more content like that, you can subscribe to the channel. Also, if you have any suggestions on a video I can make, comment them down below. Use the goddamn shapes in your composition. It's so easy, and it looks better than whatever the fuck you're doing right now.